Formula One has not even properly started its new era, and we are already witnessing political warfare at the highest level. What began as whispers about a clever Mercedes engine trick has now turned into emergency rule changes, blocked proposals, panic votes, and a fast-tracked overhaul before Monaco. And here's the shocking part. Mercedes agreed to the rule change. So why are their rivals suddenly nervous? Before we break this down, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to F1 Grid, because this season isn't just about racing, it's about power plays, engineering genius, and political chess at 300 kilometers an hour. Let's rewind. Under the 2026 power unit regulations, the maximum allowed compression ratio is 16:1. Before this regulation was reset, teams were allowed 18:1. The FIA deliberately reduced it to 16:1 to control combustion efficiency under the new sustainable fuel rules. It sounds simple and black and white, except in Formula One, nothing is ever that simple. During winter testing in Bahrain, rival manufacturers began suspecting that Mercedes had found a way to exceed the 16:1 limit, not during static garage checks, but while the engine was actually running under race conditions. And that distinction changes everything, because the FIA's measurement procedure only tested the compression ratio under cold, ambient, static conditions. In other words, engines were tested sitting in the garage. But Formula One engines don't race in garages. They race at extreme combustion temperatures, violent cylinder pressures, and constant thermal expansion. That's where the alleged loophole lived. Now let's be clear, there is no confirmed evidence Mercedes hit 18:1. Most estimates suggest something slightly above 16:1 under operational heat. But here's the problem. In modern Formula One, even a 15 horsepower gain is massive. That translates to tenths per lap, stronger exits, better energy recovery, improved battery deployment, and most importantly, track position. And in modern F1, track position is everything. Rivals estimated Mercedes could have gained somewhere between 15 to 20 horsepower under race conditions, not illegal under the cold test, but potentially outside the intended spirit of the regulation when hot. Former F1 driver David Coulthard pointed out something critical. The FIA has a small group writing regulations, while Formula One teams have hundreds of engineers dedicated to interpreting them. Engineers don't just read rules, they interrogate them, and Mercedes is arguably the most advanced engineering organization on the grid. If there was a gray area, they were always going to explore it first. This wasn't just speculation. Ferrari, Honda, Audi, and even Red Bull Powertrains reportedly aligned in concern against Mercedes. The FIA initially proposed a solution. From August 1st, engines would be tested at 130 degrees Celsius, much closer to operating temperatures. That should close the loophole, right? But then something unexpected happened. Mercedes supported the proposal calmly and confidently, and that's when panic truly spread across the paddock. If the rule change was meant to hurt Mercedes, why were they fine with it? When Mercedes agreed to the FIA's first proposal, rival teams blocked it. Suspicion instantly grew. Was the advantage smaller than feared? Could Mercedes pass the hot test anyway? Had they already prepared for it? Or was this entire situation a strategic bluff? The rivals demanded something stricter, not August 1st, June 1st, before Monaco, and not just hot measurement, but both cold and hot testing. Fast-tracked, aggressive, immediate. That tells you this wasn't normal regulatory housekeeping. This was pressure.
The expected compromise now includes compression ratio measurement under both cold ambient conditions and at 130 degrees Celsius starting from Monaco weekend. From 2027 onward, only hot measurement would remain. But here's the crucial detail. The engine is still not tested while running. It's static, just at a higher temperature. Insiders suggest Mercedes can pass both tests. If that's true, then this entire political war may have changed nothing. There are only two logical scenarios. First, Mercedes genuinely found a thermal expansion or cylinder behavior advantage that increases compression while running but still passes static checks. If true, that's engineering brilliance, and their rivals just ensured it stays legal. Second, the advantage was smaller than feared, maybe only a few horsepower, and the reaction was more political positioning than technical emergency. Either way, Mercedes emerges looking calm, and calm in F1 politics usually means confidence. This situation isn't just about horsepower, it's about power inside Formula One. When rival manufacturers block FIA proposals and force emergency votes, that signals deeper instability. The 2026 era was supposed to reset competition, but instead, we are seeing fractures before the first real championship fight even begins. At the same time, Formula One faces logistical concerns linked to Middle East airspace disruptions. Equipment travels through key hubs like Dubai and Doha, and freight relies heavily on those corridors. Delays have already affected support series logistics. While the opening races are outside the immediate region, any extended instability could create scheduling pressure. The Bahrain Grand Prix remains on the calendar, and recent regional tensions remind everyone how quickly situations can escalate. Returning to the engine story, Mercedes' willingness to support the rule change remains the most psychologically important detail. In Formula One, teams do not normally agree to regulations that weaken them unless they know they are safe. Either Mercedes is unaffected, already adapted, or confident they can outdevelop rivals regardless. Toto Wolff's calm demeanor during testing suggested confidence rather than concern, and that unsettled Ferrari and Honda more than any rumor. Monaco now becomes more than just a race, it becomes a checkpoint. If Mercedes' performance drops after June 1st, the paddock narrative changes instantly. If nothing changes, then this entire political storm confirms Mercedes interpreted the regulations better than everyone else. Formula One has always thrived in gray areas: double diffusers, flexible aerodynamic concepts, clever exhaust interpretations. Every dominant era included regulatory innovation. The difference now is that the FIA appears to be reacting mid-cycle. That exposes regulatory vulnerabilities and invites further creative interpretation. If Mercedes truly holds even a modest horsepower edge, the implications are enormous. Better straight-line speed, improved energy recovery, stronger race starts, and strategic control. In modern Formula One, controlling track position often determines the outcome before pit strategy even begins.
So this saga ultimately forces a difficult question. Is exploiting a measurement gap illegal, or is it simply intelligent engineering? Mercedes may not have broken the written rule, but rivals argue they bent its spirit. The FIA responded, teams reacted, the rules were accelerated, and now the entire grid waits. But there's another layer to this story that makes the situation even more significant for the future of Formula One. The 2026 regulations are not just a minor engine tweak. They represent one of the biggest technical resets in modern F1 history. With increased electrical power deployment, sustainable fuels, simplified hybrid systems, and tighter aerodynamic restrictions, manufacturers are essentially building a new generation of Formula One cars from scratch. That means every early advantage carries amplified consequences. In an era where engine development is tightly regulated and partially frozen once homologated, any concept advantage discovered before final approval can define multiple seasons. Unlike the past, teams cannot simply redesign major architecture mid-year without enormous cost and regulatory approval. So if Mercedes truly optimized combustion behavior within a gray zone before homologation, that edge could theoretically last for years. This is why Ferrari, Honda, Audi, and Red Bull Powertrains reacted so aggressively. It's not about one race. It's not even about one season. It's about locking in competitiveness before the regulatory door closes. Once power unit specifications are sealed, development tokens and cost caps make dramatic recovery almost impossible. There's also the psychological factor inside the paddock.
When one manufacturer is suspected of finding a loophole early in a regulation cycle, it shifts development philosophy across the grid. Instead of focusing purely on performance, teams begin allocating engineering resources toward compliance interpretation, measurement simulations, and regulatory scenario modeling. That diverts energy from pure innovation into defensive engineering. And then there's the FIA's credibility. By fast-tracking measurement adjustments before the season fully unfolds, the governing body sends a message. They are willing to intervene quickly if competitive balance appears threatened. However, that approach walks a fine line. Intervene too often, and teams lose confidence in regulatory stability. Intervene too late, and dominance narratives begin before competition even stabilizes. This moment could quietly redefine how future technical rules are written. Expect future regulations to include more dynamic testing conditions, more real-time monitoring, and possibly even expanded live telemetry oversight during race operation. Because what this situation exposed is simple. Static testing in a dynamic sport leaves room for interpretation, and in Formula One, interpretation is everything. Monaco will not just decide a race result, it may determine whether Mercedes engineered brilliance or whether the paddock overreacted to suspicion. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more real analysis without the noise, hit the like button, subscribe to F1 Grid, and share your opinion in the comments. Was this genius innovation or something that never should have passed inspection in the first place? Because in Formula One, the line between brilliance and bending the rules is razor thin, and this season, that line just became sharper.